The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. Xavier Blake didn't flinch as the liquid splattered across his custom Italian shoes. The woman who'd thrown it, a socialite whose name he'd already forgotten, was screaming something about promises and lies. Security was already moving toward them, but Xavier raised a hand to stop them. "We're done here," he said coolly, turning away from her tears. That was 3 years ago. The old Xavier Blake, the one tabloids called the billion-dollar Playboy. The man who'd burned through relationships like they were disposable. The CEO who'd nearly destroyed his own tech company with scandals and reckless behavior. Tonight, Xavier stood in almost the same ballroom, but everything had changed. He adjusted his tie and smiled at the crowd gathered for his charity gala. No more scandals. No more front-page disasters. Just 12 months of clean living, strategic investments, and carefully rebuilt relationships. His company's stock had tripled. His reputation was finally recovering. "That was a beautiful speech, Mr. Blake," his assistant Maya whispered as he stepped off the stage. "The press loved the part about second chances." Xavier nodded, scanning the crowd of investors and socialites. Then he saw her. Sophie Chen stood near the silent auction tables, wearing a simple black dress that somehow made every other woman in the room look overdressed. Her dark hair was pulled back, revealing the face he'd tried to forget for 3 years. The face that still appeared in his dreams. Their eyes met across the room. Sophie's expression flickered, recognition, then something cold. She looked away quickly, examining auction items like they were the most fascinating things she'd ever seen. Xavier's heart hammered. He'd thought about this moment 1,000 times. What he'd say if he ever saw her again. How he'd explain why he'd pushed her away when things got too real, too intense, too terrifying. He crossed the ballroom before he could talk himself out of it. "Sophie." She turned slowly, her face carefully neutral. "Xavier, congratulations on your successful rehabilitation tour." The words stung. "That's not fair, isn't it?" She set down the auction catalog. "I read about your transformation. Very inspiring. The playboy who finally grew up. Sophie, please. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes. We are talking. You know what I mean." Xavier glanced around at the nearby guests, pretending not to eavesdrop. Somewhere private. Sophie checked her watch, and Xavier noticed her hand trembling slightly. "I have to go soon anyway. I only came because my firm donated to your cause." "Then give me 5 minutes before you leave. Please." Something in his voice must have reached her because Sophie sighed. "Fine. 5 minutes. After the gala ends." The next 2 hours were torture. Xavier gave his planned remarks, shook hands with donors, and posed for photos, but his attention kept drifting to Sophie. She stayed near the edges of the room, checking her phone constantly, looking like she wanted to bolt. Finally, the crowd began thinning. Xavier caught Sophie's eye and nodded toward the exit. She hesitated, then followed him to the parking garage. The concrete space was nearly empty now, their footsteps echoing. Sophie crossed her arms, waiting. "I'm sorry," Xavier started. "For how things ended. For the things I said. I was scared and stupid and I hurt you. I've regretted it every day since." "It's been 3 years, Xavier. I'm over it." "Are you?" Sophie's jaw tightened. "Yes. I've moved on. Built a good life. You should do the same." "I'm trying." That's what tonight was about. What this whole year has been about. Becoming someone better. Someone who deserves. "Don't." Sophie's voice cracked. "Don't make this about us. There is no us. There hasn't been for a long time." Xavier stepped closer. "Then why are you shaking?" "Because I'm angry." Sophie pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. "You want to know about my life? Fine. Let me show you what you walked away from." She turned the screen toward him. The photo showed a little girl with dark curls and bright eyes, laughing at something off camera. She was maybe 2 years old, wearing a pink dress and holding a stuffed rabbit. "She's beautiful," Xavier said carefully. "Your daughter." "Our daughter." Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. "Her name is Mia. She just turned 2 last month." The parking garage seemed to tilt. Xavier grabbed the hood of a nearby car to steady himself. "What? You heard me. That's not. We were careful. You said you were." "I was. Sometimes things happen anyway." Sophie's eyes were hard now, defensive. "I found out 2 weeks after you told me you never wanted kids, that commitment wasn't your thing, that I should stop trying to turn our fun into something serious." Xavier's mind raced, doing math. 3 years ago. 2-year-old daughter. You've known for almost 3 years, and you never told me? What was I supposed to do, Xavier? Trap you with a baby you didn't want? Force you to play daddy while you resented us both? Sophie's voice rose. You made it crystal clear what you wanted. So I gave you exactly that. Nothing. That's not your choice to make. You made your choice when you walked away. Sophie was shouting now, months or years of anger finally erupting. You don't get to show up 3 years later, all reformed and respectable, and act like I'm the villain here. A security guard appeared at the garage entrance, alerted by the noise. Xavier waved him off. I had a right to know, Xavier said, his voice shaking. She's my daughter. I had a right. You had the right to be there. You chose not to be. Sophie wiped her eyes angrily. I did what I thought was best for my baby. Our baby. I gave her stability, love, a drama-free life. Everything you couldn't provide. 3 years, Sophie. 3 years of her life I'll never get back. Sophie's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. I know, and I'm sorry you missed it. But I'm not sorry I protected her from the chaos you were living in back then. Xavier stared at the photo on her phone. His daughter. He had a daughter. The little girl had his eyes, the same unusual gray-green color. He could see it even in the photo. What's she like? He asked quietly. Sophie hesitated, then unlocked her phone and scrolled through more photos. She's brilliant. Funny. She loves books and singing and her stuffed rabbit, named Carrot. She's shy with strangers, but brave when she knows you. She has your stubborn streak. Does she? Xavier's throat tightened. Does she ask about me? She's 2, Xavier. She doesn't understand yet. Sophie put her phone away. But yes, eventually she'll ask. And I'll tell her the truth. That her father wasn't ready to be a father when she was born. And now? What if I'm ready now? Sophie laughed bitterly. It doesn't work like that. You don't just show up and become a dad because it's convenient. I'm not asking for convenience. I'm asking for a chance. Xavier moved closer, desperate. Please, Sophie. Let me meet her. Let me try. Try what? Being a father? This isn't a business deal you can negotiate your way into. I know that. But she's my daughter too. I deserve to know her. Deserve? Sophie's eyes flashed. You know what Mia deserves? Consistency. Reliability. Not some reformed playboy who might get bored in 6 months and disappear. I won't disappear. You already did once. The words hit like a physical blow. Xavier ran his hands through his hair, trying to think past the chaos in his head. You're right. I did. I was a coward who ran when things got real. But I'm different now. So you keep saying. But words are cheap, Xavier. I need proof. Then let me prove it. Give me a chance to show you I've changed. Sophie studied him for a long moment. Xavier could see the war happening behind her eyes. The part of her that wanted to believe him fighting against the part that remembered how badly he'd hurt her. If I let you into Mia's life, she said finally, and you break her heart the way you broke mine, I will never forgive you. Do you understand? I won't break her heart. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Xavier pulled out his own phone. Give me your number. We'll set up rules, boundaries, whatever you need. But please, Sophie, let me be her father. Sophie closed her eyes briefly, then recited her number. Xavier saved it immediately, terrified she'd change her mind. I have conditions, she said. Anything. Supervised visits only. At my apartment. Weekends, 2 hours maximum. You show up on time, every time. 1 missed visit and you're done. Xavier nodded. Okay. You don't tell anyone about her yet. No press, no social media, no business associates. Not until I'm sure you're serious. Agreed. And you don't make promises to her that you can't keep. No extravagant gifts to buy her affection. No making me the bad guy when I set rules. You follow my lead on everything. I will. Sophie pulled out a business card and wrote on the back. This Saturday, 10 a.m., don't be late. Xavier took the card like it was made of gold. Sophie's address was in a modest neighborhood across town, nowhere near his penthouse or the circles he traveled in. I'll be there, he promised. We'll see. Sophie turned to leave, then paused. Xavier? She's the best thing that ever happened to me. If you do anything to hurt her, I won't. I swear, Sophie. I won't. After she left, Xavier sat in his car for an hour, staring at the photo she'd sent to his phone. Mia, his daughter. He'd missed her birth, her first smile, her first steps, her first words. 2 years of moments he could never get back, but he could be there for everything that came next. The next morning, Xavier called his lawyer at 7 a.m. I need everything on parental rights, he said without preamble. Good morning to you too, James replied dryly. What's this about? I have a daughter. She's 2. The mother kept it from me. What are my legal options? A pause. Xavier, are you sure about this? These things can get messy. I'm not looking to start a legal battle. I just need to know where I stand. Okay, give me details. Xavier explained the situation while pacing his apartment. James took notes, asking occasional questions about timeline and paternity. Honestly, James said when Xavier finished, if the mother is willing to let you establish a relationship, that's your best option. Family court is expensive, traumatic, and unpredictable. If you go in swinging with lawyers, you'll alienate her and possibly damage your relationship with the child. So I just do whatever she says? You prove you're trustworthy. You show up consistently. You put the child's needs first. Once you've established yourself as a reliable presence, you can negotiate more formal custody arrangements if needed. James paused. Can I ask why she didn't tell you? Xavier remembered what he'd said 3 years ago, that he never wanted kids. That commitment terrified him. That Sophie should stop trying to make their relationship into something serious. I gave her every reason not to, he admitted. Then you've got some ground to make up. My advice? Follow her rules, be patient, and prove you've changed. Saturday took forever to arrive. Xavier barely slept Friday night, running through scenarios. What if Mia hated him? What if he didn't know how to talk to a 2-year-old? What if he said the wrong thing and Sophie changed her mind? He showed up at Sophie's apartment building at 9:45, refusing to risk being late. The building was older but well-maintained, with a small playground visible in the courtyard. Xavier sat in his car, watching children play, wondering if Mia was one of them. At exactly 9:58, he got out and pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B. Sophie's voice came through the intercom. You're early. I didn't want to be late. A pause, then the door buzzed open. Xavier climbed 3 flights of stairs, his heart pounding harder with each step. He'd negotiated million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but this terrified him. Sophie opened the door before he could knock. She looked tired, her hair in a messy bun, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Behind her, Xavier could see a small but cozy apartment filled with colorful toys and children's books. Ground rules first, Sophie said, not inviting him in yet. You follow my lead. If she gets upset or uncomfortable, you back off. No forcing hugs or affection. Let her come to you. Okay. She knows you're coming. I told her a friend of mine wanted to meet her. Don't expect her to understand who you are. Xavier nodded, not trusting his voice. Sophie stepped aside. Come in. The apartment smelled like cinnamon and coffee. A cartoon played on a small TV in the living room. And there, sitting on a play mat surrounded by blocks, was Mia. She looked up when Xavier entered, her gray-green eyes, his eyes, studying him with serious curiosity. She was even more beautiful in person, with wild dark curls and Sophie's delicate features. Mia, sweetheart, this is Xavier, Sophie said gently. Can you say hi? Mia clutched her stuffed rabbit and half hid behind it. Hi, she whispered. Xavier's chest felt too tight. Hi, Mia. It's nice to meet you. He crouched down to her level, keeping his distance like Sophie had instructed. Mia watched him with those familiar eyes, and Xavier felt something shift in his chest. This was his daughter. His child. I like your rabbit, Xavier said. What's its name? Mia hugged the toy closer. Carrot. That's a good name. Does Carrot like to build blocks? A tiny nod. Can I help you build? Xavier asked. Mia looked at Sophie, who nodded encouragingly. You can share your blocks, can't you, baby? Slowly, Mia pushed a few blocks toward Xavier. He sat down carefully on the play mat and picked up a red block. His hand was shaking. For the next hour, they built towers and knocked them down. Mia gradually relaxed, giggling when Xavier made silly voices for the blocks. She showed him her books and her toy kitchen and her favorite doll. When he asked questions, she answered in her tiny voice, warming up degree by degree. Sophie watched from the couch, her expression unreadable. I made cookies, Mia announced suddenly, holding up a plastic cookie from her toy kitchen. Really? Can I have one? Xavier asked. She nodded seriously and handed him the plastic treat. It's chocolate. My favorite. Thank you, Mia. She smiled, a real smile that lit up her whole face, and Xavier felt his heart crack wide open. Too soon, Sophie stood up. Okay, sweetie, Xavier has to go now. Can you say goodbye? No. Mia's face fell. More playing. He'll come back another time, Sophie promised. giving Xavier a warning look. Xavier understood. Don't make promises. Follow her lead. Your mom's right. But thank you for sharing your toys with me, Mia. And thank you for the cookie. Mia waved shyly as Sophie walked Xavier to the door. In the hallway, Sophie crossed her arms. Well, she's incredible, Xavier said, his voice rough. Sophie, I know. Sophie's expression softened slightly. You did good today. She liked you. Can I come back? Next weekend. Same time. Same rules. Thank you. Xavier wanted to say more, to express the overwhelming emotions churning in his chest, but words felt inadequate. Thank you for this chance. Over the next 6 weeks, Xavier became a fixture in Mia's weekend routine. He learned how to fix her favorite snacks, which books she liked best, how to braid her doll's hair. He bought sensible toys that Sophie approved, crayons and coloring books, not expensive electronics. He showed up early every single Saturday, rain or shine. Slowly, Mia started calling him Zay because she couldn't quite pronounce Xavier. She'd run to the door when he arrived, chattering about her week at daycare. She'd climb into his lap during story time without being asked. And Sophie began to thaw too. She'd make coffee for both of them now. They'd talk while Mia played, carefully at first, then more naturally. About Mia's development milestones. About Sophie's job as a graphic designer. About her mother's cancer diagnosis and the medical bills that were piling up. Let me help, Xavier said immediately when she mentioned the bills. No. Sophie, I have the money. If your mother needs. I said no. I'm not taking your money. It's not about pride. It's exactly about pride. Sophie's voice was firm, but not angry. I've been handling things on my own for 2 years. I don't need rescuing. Xavier dropped it, but he started researching the best cancer treatment centers, making mental notes for when Sophie eventually, inevitably, needed help she couldn't refuse. Then everything changed. Xavier was in a board meeting when his phone buzzed with texts from an unknown number. Photos. Of him leaving Sophie's apartment. Of him at the playground with Mia. Of Sophie and Mia at the grocery store. The final message was from Marcus Hunt, his biggest business rival. Interesting secret you're keeping, Blake. Pull out of the Singapore deal by Friday, or every tabloid in the city gets these photos. Wonder how Sophie will feel about the media circus. Xavier's blood ran cold. Marcus was ruthless, known for destroying competitors through scandal and exposure. The Singapore deal was worth $50 million and would establish Xavier's company as a major international player. But more importantly, Mia's face was in those photos. Her privacy, her safety, her normal life, all threatened. Xavier called Marcus immediately, stepping out of the meeting. You son of a... Language, Blake. We're businessmen, aren't we? Marcus's voice was smooth. I'm simply offering you a choice. Your deal or your secret. She's 2 years old. You'd weaponize a child. I'd weaponize anything to win. You know that. It's what you would have done 3 years ago. The truth of that statement made Xavier sick. He had been that ruthless once, willing to destroy anyone for profit. The deal is worth millions, Xavier said carefully. I know. That's why this works. Pull out by Friday, and these photos disappear. Stay in, and by Monday morning, your secret daughter is front-page news. Sophie's name, her address, her place of work, all public information once the press gets involved. Marcus hung up. Xavier stood in the hallway, his mind racing. He could fight this. Hire lawyers, threaten countersuits. But Marcus was right. Once the story broke, the damage would be done. Paparazzi would swarm Sophie's apartment. Follow Mia to daycare. Turn their lives into a circus. He thought about Mia's shy smile. The way she'd finally started trusting him. How she'd called him Zay and held his hand at the park last weekend. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. That evening, Xavier went to Sophie's apartment unannounced. She opened the door in surprise, Mia already in her pajamas behind her. Zay. Mia ran toward him, arms up. Xavier scooped her up, hugging her tight. Over her head, he met Sophie's confused gaze. What's wrong? Sophie asked. Can we talk? After Mia's asleep? Sophie nodded slowly, concern crossing her face. Xavier read Mia 3 bedtime stories, tucked her in, and kissed her forehead, something he'd only recently started doing, and that still made his heart clench. Then he and Sophie sat at her small kitchen table. He told her everything. About Marcus, the photos, the ultimatum. Sophie's face went pale. He has pictures of Mia? I'm handling it. He won't publish them. How can you promise that? Because I'm pulling out of the deal. Xavier pulled out his phone and showed her the email he drafted to his business partners. I'm withdrawing our bid. Marcus gets what he wants. Sophie stared at the screen. Xavier, isn't this deal important to your company? It's worth about $50 million and would establish us in the Asian market. Then you can't just. Yes, I can. Xavier took her hand. Mia's safety is worth more than any business deal. Your privacy is worth more. I won't let her be hunted by photographers because of me. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. You'd give up $50 million? Without hesitation. Xavier squeezed her hand. I told you I'd changed. That I'd put her first. This is me proving it. Sophie wiped her eyes, but she was shaking her head. There has to be another way. Can't you sue him or? By the time lawyers got involved, the photos would already be out. We'd win eventually, but the damage would be done. Xavier had spent all afternoon considering options. This is the cleanest solution. It's not fair. Maybe not. But it's the right thing to do. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and paced the small kitchen. What if he asks for something else later? What if he keeps coming back? Xavier smiled grimly. Then I'll deal with it. But actually, I'm not as helpless as he thinks. He pulled out his own phone and played a recording. Marcus's voice filled the kitchen. Pull out by Friday, or every tabloid gets these photos. Sophie's eyes widened. You recorded him. I record all my business calls. It's legal in this state with one-party consent. Xavier stopped the playback. Marcus just confessed to blackmail. If he ever threatens us again, this goes to the police and the press. His reputation would be destroyed. So you're protecting us and protecting yourself. I'm protecting my family. The word slipped out naturally, and Xavier realized he meant it. This was his family now. I'll pull out of the deal to keep Mia safe. But Marcus will know that if he pushes further, I push back harder. Sophie sat back down, studying him. You really have changed, haven't you? I'm trying. Every day. She reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you. For choosing her. For choosing us. Always, Xavier promised. The next morning, Xavier sent the withdrawal email. His business partners were furious, demanding explanations. Xavier gave them a partial truth. A family emergency that required his immediate attention. They'd cool down eventually. Or they wouldn't. Either way, it didn't matter as much as protecting Mia. Marcus called that afternoon, smug and satisfied. Pleasure doing business with you, Blake. This isn't business, Marcus. And if you ever threaten my daughter again, you'll discover exactly how ruthless I can still be. Xavier played 5 seconds of the recording. I have the whole conversation. Don't test me. The line went dead. 3 months later, Xavier sat on Sophie's living room floor, helping Mia build a block tower. She'd grown so much in the months he'd known her. She told jokes now, sang songs, argued about bedtime. She called him Daddy sometimes, though she still preferred Zay. Sophie came in from the kitchen with coffee. She asked about the zoo again. She wants you to come with us next weekend. I'd love to. Xavier carefully placed another block. Actually, I was thinking. It's been 3 months. I've been consistent, showed up every weekend, followed all your rules. You have. Sophie agreed, sitting on the couch. What if we made this more official? Formal custody arrangement, my name on her birth certificate, child support. Xavier, I told you I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. It's about what's fair to Mia. She deserves financial security from both her parents. Xavier looked up at Sophie. And honestly, I want to do more. Be more. Not just weekend visits. Sophie was quiet, considering. What did you have in mind? Dinner once a week at my place. You both come over, I cook, we eat like a family. And maybe eventually, Xavier hesitated. Maybe eventually we figure out what we are. Not just co-parents, but us. Mia's tower fell over, and she laughed. Again, Daddy. Build again. Sophie watched her daughter, then looked at Xavier with an expression he couldn't quite read. 1 dinner a week. We'll start there and see how it goes. That's all I'm asking. A chance to build something. Slowly. The right way this time. Sophie smiled. A real smile that reminded Xavier why he'd fallen for her 3 years ago. Okay, let's try. Mia climbed into Xavier's lap, demanding another story. As he read to her, Sophie's hand found his shoulder. Not a promise, but not a promise either. Just a beginning. Xavier had spent years chasing the wrong things. Money, success, meaningless relationships. He'd thought that made him powerful, important, free. He'd been wrong about everything. This, Mia's weight in his lap, Sophie's hand on his shoulder, a cramped apartment full of plastic toys and crayon drawings. This was what mattered. This was worth more than any business deal, any amount of money, any version of himself he'd been before. He'd lost 3 years he could never get back, but he had a lifetime ahead to be the father Mia deserved, the partner Sophie deserved, the man he'd always been capable of becoming. And he wasn't going to waste another second. If you loved watching Xavier's journey from playboy to devoted father, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional stories. What do you think? Should Sophie give Xavier a real second chance at romance, or just co-parenting? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.